Hello friends, welcome to today's video. My name is Bridget. Thank you for joining me today for this conversation. My channel is about generational trauma and everything that has to do with generational trauma. Today's conversation is going to be what is holding you back from becoming the true authentic self that God has called you to be. Okay, so with a little introduction, so you know a little about me. I am a nurse. I have my BSN. I had a lifelong passion of the biological sciences. I've studied professionally and personally quantum biology, physics, chemistry, anatomy, physiology. I love it all. I worked 30 years in surgery. I'm a clinical surgical nurse because I absolutely adore how the human body works. About 15 years ago, though, I just had a passion about how humans behave, which drew me to psychology and the behavior of humans and why we behave the way we do. And I worked in psych hospitals, and I did home health for 20 years, taking care of psych patients and studying professionally and personally why humans behave the way they do. And I'm clinically certified as a psych nurse as well. So about 10 years ago, I started my awakening process, if you want to say that. I start getting downloads and connecting dots and seeing family patterns and realizing the whole thing was about generational trauma, recognizing it, trying to find patterns in my own family. I'll tell my own story in future videos because I truly believe that you can observe how situations affect other human beings. If you can observe how situations affect other human beings, then you can actualize certain concepts for yourself in those stories. That's why we read the Bible, right? They're timeless stories where everybody can relate to somebody in the story and learn the lessons therefrom, right? So today's conversation, what is holding you back from being the authentic self that God has created you to be? Well, generational trauma it's a term that's circulating throughout the spiritual community, right? That's not really explained. The term is thrown out there, and we kind of have a murky idea. Well, yeah, I guess patterns repeat themselves in families, or our family's cursed, or I'm cursed, or everybody has their own concept, which is true. I'm sure there's plenty of concepts to be thrown out there regarding the explanation of it. And so I would just like to join the community of trying to explain it with my own insights and hopefully give you a little insight on why you probably have, or if you feel like you do have self-limiting beliefs. Where did that come from? Why did you end up being a person that has that, right? Do you have self-limiting beliefs or thought patterns or behaviors that prevent you from attaining total abundance in life? And abundance, that's another word, right? Like, what is abundance? Right? Abundance is not just money, although it can be. Financial security, so that you don't have any problems. You are harmonious in the amount of income you have and how you want to live your life. But I believe it's beautiful, harmonious relationships, fulfillment and joy in career choices, physical and mental well-being, having a balanced social, personal, professional, and spiritual life. That's a lot. Well, that's abundance. It's everything. It's you've got everything in life under control, harmonious, and you're flowing and becoming what God wanted for you. He wanted total fulfillment for us. But he recognizes that there have been hurts and there's blockages in our heart chakras that are preventing us from believing that we can have total abundance. So let me tell you what I've learned. So our lives as adults is a product, right, of childhood experiences. When a baby's born, it does not have a sense of self. So you actually create yourself in response to your environment. As you grow, you learn to create environments of positive or negative reinforcement. So maybe as a 2-year-old, you made people laugh and you loved how it felt to be heard and acknowledged and being told you're so cute and funny. So you repeated patterns, right? Or behaviors that made people laugh because you liked the response you got from your environment. That's one example, right? Ask yourself, are you an honest expression of your true self? Or did you create the person that you thought other people wanted you to be? Or did you create a person because that was the only type of person that got any kind of response from people? And maybe when you were your true self, the people that just happened to be around you didn't appreciate it or didn't value that. And so you hid your true self and became this fake person. And I say fake, meaning you can be funny. You can be a funny person. But maybe you're a type of person who is more into mystical things, and you want to share that with your family. And they're like, nobody's interested in that. And nobody you'd ever encounter would be interested in that. Stick with who you are. Stay funny. Tell your jokes. Don't talk about that stuff. And so you start, repressing things that you authentically are interested in, or types of expression that you truly want to explore. You don't allow yourself that because you've been told by other people, not only are we not interested, but you're going to be shunned by other people if you go down that road. That's just an example, right? So money, relationships, work, and health, meaning physical and mental. Spiritually, are you empowered in yourself and your energy? That's really where I'm going today, right? And if you're not, why might that be? Maybe because who we are as children becomes a part of our personality as we age, called our inner child, right? We often react to others and situations as adults from a place of our ego or soul, called our inner child. We learn behaviors and family patterns and habits and addictions and beliefs about ourselves and how the world works and how the world's going to react to us and what we can expect from the public and from life through the eyes, even as an adult, through our inner child. So you can see then how family can play a pivotal role in your self-development, because these are the first relationships we have. These are the people we first learn to trust or not trust. These are the people who most likely, until you learn otherwise or believe otherwise, are the people you trust the most. So in starting this YouTube channel, I asked God, where do I begin in this journey of explaining generational wounding and healing? And in his mighty infinite and wisdom, he said, start in the beginning. Start in Genesis with the first family. So I went to Genesis chapter 4. And I'll read chapter 4, the first couple of paragraphs. Right? And Adam knew Eve and his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man from the Lord. And she bare his brother Abel, and Abel was the keeper of sheep, and Cain was the tiller of the ground. So one's a farmer, and one's a shepherd, right? It came to pass that Cain and Abel met the Lord and brought some offerings to him, right? Abel brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and his offering. Cain brought his first fruits, and God did not respect his offering, and Cain was angry, and it showed on his face. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why does your face look angry? And he said, if you're not careful, son, Satan will be at your door, and his desires will be your desires, and you need to rule over him when that happens. And then we know the story. Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and lured him out into a field, and then he killed his brother. And we'll stop there for now. And so here, to catch you up, right? In chapter 1 and 2, God does his work to create the world. He makes humans in chapter 2. And so there's a marriage, and Adam and Eve are together and making a family, and all is good. Right? In chapter 3, after the wedding, Satan shows up, right, to plan an attack on our first parents and the first marriage. So what is the fate of human history afterwards? Well, when we turn to chapter 4, we're actually reading about the next generation, right? The two kids. We're looking at the complications and implications of sin that has come through the husband and wife that has been now passed to the children, right? This is what you call the beginning of a 2,000-year-old case study of the genesis of marriage, family, and generational dynamics. And so the result of this is the decisions that were made before you will affect your life. And the decisions you make in your life will affect the generations to come. And the bigger picture is that God has plans to bless and prosper you and your family, and Satan has plans to destroy your family. So you have to decide which plan you're gonna follow, right, or choose for yourself and your family. So the study is a sobering one of humanity, the study of the first family, right? I had to apologize to my children for the pains that I caused. And as we read God's word, we see for the parents out there that we have to realize we've caused some problems for our own children, yeah? And to those of us as children of parents, I warn, no matter how much you think your parents goofed you up, and you're not going to goof up your own children, you'll do the same. You'll do the same. Not goof them up, but you'll make choices, and you'll say things, and you'll do things, obviously, right, that will affect the next generation, whether you like it or not. And so let's dive into chapter 4 in the Bible, right? Insert yourself emotionally into the story and ask, like, who do I identify with? What behaviors, what patterns, and what conditions of the heart and motives resonate with me, right? Who reminds me of me in the story? Because we're reading a story of the fall of a family when we're reading this story. Sometimes pain and hurt is the most actually felt in the family relationships. And we wish that our family was healthier and closer, but oftentimes it's unhealthy and painful, the relationships they're in, right? And so this is the beginning of the family. Eve had Cain, the big brother, and Abel was the younger brother. And it's the beginning, really, of church, right? Because they are all, well, the two children have learned to meet God at some place. And when they do, they don't come empty-handed. They produce an offering, a sacrifice. Excuse me. It's the beginning of church. They're bringing their offerings from their jobs to the Lord. And Cain is a farmer, and Abel then is a rancher, right? But what happens? Both boys bring the offerings, and God accepts one and rejects the other. Cain was very angry, so we can say it's the beginning of anger, right? And the Lord asks Cain, why are you angry? Why do you look so upset? If you do well, you will be accepted. And if you don't do well, then sin is crouching at your door. He's trying to tell Cain, son, you're in a bad place. Sin is coming for you, and you're going to need to resist it, all right? Because he's jealous of Abel, and he's getting angry. So Cain gets Abel to remove himself from the presence of the Lord, brings him out into a field, and kills him. And then the Lord asks Cain, where is Abel, your brother? And Cain said, I don't know. I'm not his designated driver. I'm not his keeper. Right? I'm not his babysitter. It's not my job. I don't know where he's at. And the Lord said, what have you done? What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground, and now you are cursed. From now on, when you work the ground, it shall no longer just yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. So, boy, Judgment Day and execution all at once, right? None of us are born naturally good or morally pure, are we? You instinctively are born a bad person. Do you realize that? We're instinctively bad. And with a bad heart. And I think that's why God needs to make you a new person with a good heart. God doesn't just improve who we are when we come to Him. He transforms us. He transforms who we are, spiritually and biologically. In this channel, I'm going to go on I'm going to have different videos that explain, coming up, how we biologically change our cells in the body when we experience trauma, or even people who speak disheartening things to us. What does that do to us biologically? Not just mentally. It is not just mental, it is biological. And do we pass that down to the next generation biologically? Yes, we do. That's called quantum biology. So, I'm going to cover all kinds of things on this channel. When we see ourselves as kids, right, we're born with a sin nature. Sin is not just something we do, it's who we are. If we allow God to change who we are, then we'll see change in what we do. Right? So as we heal from generational trauma, excuse me, we transform biologically, spiritually, mentally, and you can see that we're transformed afterwards by how we behave and the things we do. It's our actions that prove that we're different. So, back to the story. Both boys came to God with something good in their hands, right? Both bring an offering from their vocations. One is accepted and one's rejected. The question is, why is one accepted and one is rejected? People tend to suggest one put more effort into the offering, right? Gave the best of what they had, and they focused on what was offered. But maybe both of them were good. Maybe both offerings were the best they could have offered. Then what would have been God's reason for not accepting Cain's? Maybe the question was, what was in their hearts? Yeah? God doesn't only look on the outside of things, he sees the inside of things. Cain was always jealous of Abel. Cain did not feel good enough. Not good enough for God and not good enough, excuse me, felt like he was in Abel's shadow. And God not only examines, right, the works and the fruits of our labors, but what's in our hearts. So 2 people came to the Lord, and one's heart is filled with anger, jealousy, greed, and lust, and another one is filled with the love for God and others. You can't always tell by looking at people what God might be seeing on the inside, right? Genesis continues to say that Abel had faith and Cain did not. It wasn't what they had in their hands, it's my opinion, but what they had in their hearts. Scriptures say, Lord, search me and show me the unclean way within me. Yeah? Why do we say that? John 3 says, the same Satan, the same satanic being that came for Adam and Eve and their marriage came to Cain for his legacy. What is going on behind the scenes is demonic attacks, and it's spiritual warfare. It reads, we shall not be like Cain, who was like the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own deeds were evil and his brothers were righteous. Do not be surprised, brothers, that this world will hate you. What it says to the church is that if you're going to live for God, expect the world to be against you, right? We've heard that before. In Jude 1, 10 and 11, it says, these people blaspheme all they did not understand, like unceasing animals. Woe to them, for they walk the way of Cain. So what it says is that Cain had spiritual descendants, right, who follow in his pathway. They cause problems, pain, perils, and God's people should follow in the footsteps of Abel. Worship God while wholeheartedly, regardless of what's happening around us. Try to stay in the vibration of love. So sin is pervasive. When humans are in their worst moments, they will obviously be capable of anything. Sometimes when someone is unhealthy and broken, right, they're repulsed by the light. They have great sickness in their soul, and the goodness of others can trigger them. So these people may not, or may have, suffered great traumas and painful experiences. So they're usually cynical, bitter, angry. Sometimes they can be controlling, victimized, and jealous. And I must say, It's funny, right? How extreme Cain's feelings were, because he didn't come through a generational line of trauma, did he? There were only 4 people on the planet at the time, or at least in his world, 4 of them. He had parents and he had a brother. Like, and yet, he's still, when he comes into the presence of Abel and God, he's escalated. He's agitated, right? It's like he's saying, this doesn't feel comfortable. I don't like it. I don't want to be here. It doesn't feel good here. But he's faking it. Because he still goes. He still goes in the presence of God and Abel. And he pretends, well, I'm going to bring the best of everything and I'm going to give everything, right? There's a great sickness in his soul, his jealousy for Abel, and his feeling not good enough for God, but he hides it. If he was healthier, right, coming into the presence of the Lord and his brother would calm him and would heal him. But sometimes people who are unhealthy feel very uncomfortable around people who are more healthy. See, Cain didn't just immediately slay his brother either, did he? It was premeditated. He brought him out of the presence of God into a field where he thought no one would see. So there's a word for us, right? Sometimes people will do things in the dark when they know no one's looking. People will do things when they think that no one's looking or when they're alone that they would never do when people are truly looking at them. They think they're hiding, as Cain was doing. Hiding. Where have we heard that before? His parents were hiding in the Garden of Eden, were they not? Trying to hide their sin as well. Yep, you can't hide anything from the all-knowing Lord, can you? But catch this. God quickly pursued Cain, just like he quickly pursued Adam, right? And he asks him a question, just like he did his father. With Adam, the question was, where are you? God knew where he was. That was him pursuing him, right? Getting into conversation with him. And with Cain, he asked, where's your brother? So you're not just a victim of the sins of others, right? You too are a sinner. You've hidden from the Lord, and God's been pursuing you. Has he been calling you? Has he been inviting you to be honest about who you are and where you are in life? How you're feeling about your relationships and other people? If you're feeling not good enough? Is God asking you to be self-aware, kind of self-reflect, hermit a little bit, think about things? We all tend to be painfully aware, right, of the pain caused by prior generations to us. But we try to be very ignorant of the decisions we have made and are making presently that will affect the future generations. And this is because I think our culture, well, I live in the U.S., in our culture, I think we're very encouraged to be a victim, but not to be self-aware. Our culture doesn't promote us being accountable moral agents, do they? No. Well, everything before me has led to my horrible, painful life. That's what we hear a lot now. And that could be true. No, we're not saying it's not true. However, What are you doing to hand that baton, that thought baton, to the next generation, right? What are you doing to leave them better opportunities? And some of us might be. I'm just getting you to try to have a different perception on life and think differently, or apply this to someone else in the family. Do you see that they're stuck? Do you see that they're in that kind of mindset? Do you see them not making better opportunities for the next generation? So Genesis, again, begins this 2,000-year case study of blessings and traumas, right? One generation makes decisions or takes actions that'll either bless the next generation or traumatize the next generation. That's the point I'm getting at. And side note, right? God is pro-life, and Cain was the beginning of pro-choice. Didn't notice that? He chose whether a family member would live or die. And he determines that his family member will die. And today we call that abortion, don't we? The most dangerous place to be right now is in your mother's womb. 1 in 5 pregnancies are terminated intentionally. The Word of God confronts a culture through this story. If God is going to confront a cultural issue, then I believe that his children need, or the culture needs, to adjust and change the way their behaviors are. If we realize maybe we've made the wrong choices, yeah? Does our culture need to adjust and change? I just know it's a sick world when one family member gets to determine whether or not another family member lives or dies. Right? The spirit of Cain, is what I would call it, lives on. The leading cause of death last year and the year before was not COVID. It was not cancer. It was not heart disease. It was abortion. More people died of abortion than at any other sickness or health condition or trauma or accident or anything. When you see people choosing to kill family members and end their life and legacy, then you know that the serpent is still at work. Right? We can see the urge to genocide and depopulate the world. A lot of this starts as pro-choice. Go to the scriptures and be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you no longer conform to the patterns of the world. That's what we're told. Okay, let's go to Abel, the spirit of Abel. Sometimes you're Abel, right? You're innocent. You're a victim who's done nothing wrong. Sometimes you are. Sometimes a family member will just intentionally hurt you when you've done nothing to deserve it. And if that's happened to you, it's happened to me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that pain. It's unjustified. And sometimes, at our own hands, we intentionally hurt people. Or nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not saying horrible things, hopefully not. Or maybe you have, and now you have extreme guilt. And you say, oh my God, 20 years ago I was a horrible person, and I would never do those things now. And you're living under shame, and you feel like you're not good enough. Not good enough for God. Not good enough for your family. These are the kinds of things that I'm going to try to address, right? Everybody's in a different place. 80 billion of us are having 80 billion different experiences. So this doesn't resonate in just one way to everybody. So let's go on. Abel couldn't apologize to Cain, right, for making him angry because he'd done nothing wrong. The problem was inside Cain, right? He was angry, unhealthy. He was a guy that lashed out, and he was hurting his brother. There may have been incidences where someone was against you and attacking you, abusing you maybe, and you didn't deserve it. And you didn't instigate it. But if you were not careful, right? Listen here. If you're not careful, starting out as Abel and getting treated unjustly, not forgiving, even if you didn't forgive, like just becoming jaded, you see how you slip into the spirit of Cain? You see the injustice, no apology, no change in behavior, and then you get cynical and angry, and you become the spirit of Cain, right? Be careful. So, let's talk briefly about that inner child I referred to at the beginning of the video. I think I've established that we can have family members who embody the spirit of Cain, right? Spouses, siblings, parents who can kill your spirit, who can murder you spiritually, take the love out of your heart, right? Can destroy the love of yourself, can destroy your confidence. And this may be triggering for some people, but I'm going to go there. All right, we're going to dive deep, love warriors. We're going to dive deep here. I'm going to give you some examples about how adults may become blocked from expressing their true spiritual self that God made them be, right? Your true self is that part of God that is in you, that He purposely placed in your essence, because He wanted that part of Him to live on earth. So when I say your authentic self, that's what I'm referring to. That essence of God that He purposely placed in you to express and live out here on earth. Are you doing that? Are you able to do it? Maybe you feel like you can't do it. Maybe you don't know how to do it. And if you're doing it, good for you. Good for you. But some of us were raised by unhealthy parents. They silenced us. They didn't hear us out. They devalued us. They diminished our feelings of self-worth by emotionally and maybe even physically abusing us. They would say things like, okay, so I was raised in the 60s and 70s. My parents were like, get outside and play. Don't come back till dinner time. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. If you come back, I'm going to find chores for you to do, or you're going to do a book report. Well, you didn't go in for nothing. You even went into friend's house to potty because, God forbid, you had to spend the day doing chores or book reports. You didn't go home, right? And there's a lot of classical things that generation said to us, like, your feelings are hurt. I remember wiping out on my bike, and I had gravel an inch deep into my knees, blood's dripping down my legs. I'm crying. It hurt. I got in the house, and my mom was like, are you crying? Oh, stop your crying. Stop crying. She said a lot of the times, I'll give you something to cry about, when she didn't think that why I was crying was valid. You know, all that does is devalue your emotions. You're being told it's not valid to have that emotion. It is not a pleasant thing when you're emotional. It is not even worth it to express pain, because nobody's going to be compassionate for you. Right? And as we got a little older, right, the parent speech evolved into, What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why can't you behave like so-and-so's kid? What's wrong with you? Are you sick? Do we need to get you a doctor? Do you need a counselor? Why do you behave the way you do? Why do you come against me so much? Why must you rebel so hard? Why aren't you doing what you're being told to do? Why aren't you accepting being controlled over and dominated over and oppressed? Why? There must be something wrong with you. You're broken. Like, I can go on, right? And by this age now, you're probably realizing that you're being raised by someone irrational and unjust, sometimes unloving. By now, you realize if you're being raised by a parent who's unloving or unbalanced, sometimes loving, very few like incidences of love expression, and 90% oppression and contentment, not content, contention. And it's hard to wrap your mind around when you're a child that maybe you're living with a monster. And the younger you realize they're a monster, the more scary it might be to think, I have to live with this person every day of my life. 20 years sounds like a really long time to a child. So what they psychologically do is look for the goodness in that person. They can't focus on the monster side. That's scary. That's overwhelming. That's depressive. So we're searching constantly for something good. Oh, they smiled at me. Like when my mom was an alcoholic. When she would be hungover in the mornings, I'd make her a cup of tea. She was a teetotaler when she wasn't totaling her liquor. I did that because I got a positive response from her. If I would bring her a cup of tea, she would smile at me. Never said thank you, I appreciate it, or oh, you don't have to do that, or I love when you do that, it's nurturing to me. Her inner child really became expectant on me mothering her. But regardless, when I did mother her, that's when I got the tender side of her to come out. So I learned the behavior. She trained me, right, to mother her. The point is that I became a person who saw the good in all kinds of people. I'd say, yeah, they did this, that, and the other, but look how they did this. Or they cried one day about how they were abused by someone else. So I get why they're broken. I'm always picking apart people, not believing the bad side and encouraging the good side, yeah? And this is a thing. When you're raised by narcissistic or let's just say oppressive, because when we can't diagnose people, lots of people have narcissistic tendencies or characteristics. I mean, we all do at some point, but for people more abusive, they could be they could be psychopaths, they could be a borderline personality disorder, they could be bipolar, they could be manic depressives, or so let's not just label people as such. But yes, parents with narcissistic tendencies, certainly what they all have in common with the children, right, either become narcissistic themselves to protect themselves, oppressing others and being dominating over others will definitely prevent you from being the oppressed one. Kill or be killed, right? Or you become the empath, the one who walks on eggshells, trying to figure out the behavior, trying to predetermine what mood are they in, what can and can I say, being extremely precise about your language to them so you don't trigger them, so you don't cause more aggression. And another thing that's in common are people pleasers, right? Well, people pleasers are people who really, to a fault, okay, there's nothing wrong with seeing the good in people. Please do. But when someone is oppressing you and someone is abusing you, you still don't see the red flags, you don't address it, you allow it because you empathize more with the brokenness of them. You understand why they're abusing you. You understand why they're mean. That's unhealthy for you. For you, right? Okay, so you become this person who tries to make excuses for people's poor behavior. You become a person who tries to find the good in a person. And you become hyper-focused on the rare events of the kind acts towards you and become this people pleaser, right? You're now being programmed to repeat patterns of earning love. These people are not going to give love freely. They're not going to act kindly randomly to you because they just feel loving at the time, right? You incorporate these beliefs that you are not good enough as is. That is like the core to everything. Get to the core. And that's what it is. How do I modify my behavior to become good enough to be treated nicely at work, in your marriage, in your family, with your parents, with your friends? How do I change me? How do I change? Now, look, if you have toxic behaviors, yes, please change. But when you're your authentic self and you're not being accepted, you're being oppressed, you're being told to jump through hoops. Oh, if you love me, do this. And that might be said or not said. It might be through, when you say what you think, I don't care about your opinion. I don't want to hear your opinion. In fact, if you come to my house and you say your opinion, you won't be welcome here anymore. If you want to have a relationship with me, then you will behave the way I want you to behave. And we do. That's what's crazy. We do. We change our behavior. Oh, golly. Well, there must be something wrong with how I'm behaving. I want to have a relationship. I want peace. I don't want to upset somebody. Okay, well, I guess I'll meet you halfway, is what we're thinking. I'll meet you halfway. I'll do what you're saying. But then you step back and you're like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing to keep the peace? Why do you keep just telling me I need to keep changing when you're not very nice and you're never doing anything for me? This is not a reciprocal relationship. That's how you know it's unhealthy. It's not reciprocal. Those people are not sitting down with you saying, how do we find peace? Reconciliation does not take months. It takes one conversation. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend. Or I was crabby and I did offend you and I just want to take that back. It was hurtful. I shouldn't have done it. I was angry because of this, that, and the other. And is the other person, if they want peace, they say, that was hurtful. But I'm glad you apologized. At least that shows that you care about how you've hurt me. All right, next time we can communicate healthier. Or next time, I'll tell you that I'm uncomfortable with how you're speaking to me. Or next time, and boom, a new boundary is made. Boundaries are understood. an apology is made, you're either holding space. There's a lot of people in my life that don't communicate well. Sometimes I don't communicate well with them. I always hold space. I will forever be the person who holds space for change. You want to come to me 10 years later and say, I missed you in my life. How do we come back from that? It's like the prodigal son. That's so exciting to me, to see somebody who's been caught in patterns and behaviors and then shamed themselves and permitted wonderful relationships to flourish because they felt embarrassed or too proud, or that's I just love to see breakthroughs like that. And I will always hold space for anyone in my life or environment to come to me and say, is there still hope? I never give up hope. I won't give up hope on people, situations. Now, I'm not going to stay and be oppressed, and I'm still learning when's a healthy time to walk away. I tend to hold on way longer than I need to because it's just so hurtful to me to lose people in my life. And I've been surrounded by oppressive people who say, oh, you're going to assert yourself and tell me how you want to be treated? Then there's no room for you in my life. And I know these people are that way, but they're people I love. And so I've waited way too long to finally say, this is how I need to be treated. Nicely. Is that so difficult? Nicely. Don't swear at me. Don't call me swear words. Let's start there. Second, I voiced how I wanted to be treated because I've spent years, 10 years, hearing every time we got together what their new boundary was, what I was and wasn't. People who say, I'm offended that you don't prioritize the time you say you're going to be here. Oh, I tend to be a little late for lots of stuff. I get it. And I said, oh my gosh. Well, your family. I didn't know that when I said I was going to come and visit, and I gave you a time, and I was 15 minutes to a half hour late, that I was being timed. It wasn't an appointment. I didn't know I was scheduling in a visit, and I stayed all day. So it didn't occur to me that was offensive to you. But now that I know that it's important to you, I definitely will make sure that when I say I'm going to be there at a certain time, I will be. I'll meet you halfway. I'll change my behavior because my other behavior hurt you. And the same person will come to my house over an hour late. Since they've made that boundary, and I said, as long as you do the same, we'll both keep the same boundary. And they were like, yeah, okay, yeah, good. But you see, I don't find it offensive if someone's going to come and visit me and I'm home all day. I just don't get that irritated if they're not on time. I know crap happens. I know you run out of gas on the way and you got to stop. And then the gas register is broken and all hell breaks loose. Like, that's my life. I know when you have a child and they're not happy and all kinds of crap can happen to get you late from something. It's a visit. We're not talking about a doctor visit or, some kind of appointment. I'm waiting for you to come to me so we can share some happy moments, make some memories. Don't kill yourself getting to my house. I just want you to come when you can and let's spend the time we can together. I, I mean, so no. Even when they were late, I didn't say like they did. If you're 10 minutes beyond the time you say you're going to be, don't knock on the door, don't ring the bell, you won't be let in, you're not welcome. Who says that to people? Especially family. Like, but I get that certain types and certain personalities, I understand that. I get that some people think their time is valuable. So, but I mean, I'm just not that type. I don't think that way. So, well, that's one example, right? Ugh, I got off track. Okay. That's just how I'm showing you how we can be programmed, right, to jump through hoops for people. And it seems irrational. And then you try to rationalize it in your head and think, okay, I must be the broken one here. So I will change my behaviors. I'll let you program me to behave how you want me to be so that you can oppress me and stay dominating. I believe in equal relationships. Now, maybe people will say there's no such thing as equality. There may not be total equality, but I will always try to have people be on the same level as me. Let's be on the same level. I don't want to be better than you. If I happen to be better at something than you, fine. I'm sure you're better than me at some things. We're talking about reciprocal relationships where I'm kind and loving and forgiving and holding space for you to evolve. So that means you can make mistakes that you can learn from. And I'm holding a space for you to grow. You're not going to be held to rules and boundaries and, my gosh. Boundaries are good. You know what I mean by irrational people. We all have them in our lives. I don't think I need to go on, right? Okay. The people that I'm talking about have no empathy for you. They don't care how you feel. There's no benefit to you crying or complaining or bringing up any hurt, right? No one is going to save you from this reality. When you're around enough people like that, it can be really lonesome. You can feel hopeless and helpless. You can feel victimized. And your life continues on day after day in survival mode. Let's say you're a child living with a parent. That's really oppressive. Year after year, day after day, you're going on with this oppression. You're kind to people. And they tell you nothing you do comes from your heart space. You live in constant comparison mode to other people, right? Gauging. Are you the broken one? Are they the broken one? Who's broken here? I must be the broken one. Because no one else is telling them they're broken. They're not acting like they're broken. I must be broken. People walk all over you, take advantage of your good nature, right? Because you keep them close, because you see the only the good in them. You only see the good in them. Usually, you're attracting people just like your parents, because you want to relive the same relationship that was so horrible. You meet someone with narcissistic tendencies who love bombs you in the beginning, right? No, you can't do anything wrong. You're perfect. They love you. You're sharing all your hurts and your scars with them, and they're accepting those. They're saying, you know what, I love you. I love you and the mess of you. And you're like, what? I've never met anyone who unconditionally loved me. We must be soulmates. Oh my God. Nobody in my whole life has ever accepted me for everything I am. And this person figures out your wounds, your deep wounds, what's hurt you the most in life. Then they start slowly using those against you. They start doing the behaviors that you already had told them other people did that hurt your feelings. And by the time you see the red flags and you're realizing, this is similar, this reminds me of some other relationship I had, perhaps growing up. But you as an adult think, oh, this time I'm going to fix them. I wasn't able to fix my parent, but I'm going to be hell-bent. I am going to love this person to death. I'm going to love this person so hard. And through all their trauma and through all their hatefulness, I'm going to be an example of how they can trust the world around them. They're going to soften. They're going to feel my love and know that they can be loved. And sometimes that doesn't work. To our detriment, that doesn't work, right? This relationship is now a do-over from childhood, and you're believing it's going to end in victory because you know how to love them to death. And you work your tail off to be good enough for them. I mean, that's what it really is. Because these people are these kinds of people, period. Most of the time they don't want to change. Most of the time they're not insightful enough or self-aware enough to change. They're very low vibrational. They're very hurt. I'm not saying there's not a reason why they are that way, but you have to realize that once you find yourself in the patterns of trying to be good enough, that you're now in a pattern, a repeated, cycled pattern. That is not self-empowering. That is not where God wants you to be. It's great to help these people, reach out a hand, love them. But if it's to your detriment, you have to rethink these relationships. You have to. You have to. You can leave space for healing. You can leave space and room for, hey, maybe another time we can come back to it, the peace table and make peace and figure out how we have a relationship that works for both of us. But right now, this relationship isn't working for me. And it's funny, right? Because then you sound like you're the one that has narcissistic tendencies. It's so twisted. I'm just trying to focus on how you could be blocked from being the true person you are, because you're so overwhelmed with trying to fix everybody else and make everyone else happy, perhaps, or trying to be good enough for other people, or earning love from people. I mean, you don't have to earn love. Yes, you have to earn trust. Yes, you have to show that you're a loving person in order to receive love. But that should all be easy stuff. That should all come natural. Did you ever have a spouse that believed, right, that you weren't pretty enough? You weren't smart enough? You didn't earn enough? All these people, they're different, yet they're all the same. They figure out your deepest insecurities, and then they weaponize them against you. And then one day, you look at the totality of your life, which has been bankrupt of fulfillment, bankrupt of true intimacy. You have an increased fear of rejection from not only people, but opportunities. Opportunities that passed you by that you didn't explore, because what if it proved you weren't good enough? This life is long rooted in a vile self-belief, right, poured onto you by others that you're not good enough. Your environment has robbed you of true self-expression, happiness and peace, abundance, and left you feeling helpless and hopeless. The good news is you're awakening now. You can escape the matrix and the toxic family patterns and behaviors and people and beliefs that you've been projecting onto yourself and others, right? So that you don't express, people don't want to express your individual light. That's threatening to people. My videos hopefully are going to show you how to create your true identity in Christ. I want you to know who and what you stand for. I want you to perform a life review, take inventory, and resolve to change or heal anything unbalanced in your life or your heart. I want you to manage barriers to toxic people and situations. I want you to be able to heal from past wounds, understand why you had distorted ways of behaving and thinking, why you had distorted patterns in the relationships in the past, maybe why you had trouble coping with past wounds. I want to help you learn to flow with your emotions and not be controlled by them. You can feel them without being controlled by them. Feelings of anxiety, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of fear, feelings of abandonment. These are why we behave in ways we hate to behave, right? If we're not the one with narcissistic tendencies, and we're an empath, perhaps it's behaviors. We want to say, oh, we're loving them to death, but are we really? We get home and we're like, gosh, I hated complimenting them. Why did I do that? Why did I build their confidence when all they did was shut me down the whole visit? Why do I do those kinds of things? Right? If we can find balance in all these things, we'll definitely be able to harmonize our inner world, right? The most important thing is discern karmic toxic people from healthy people, the Cains from the Abels. You have to reparent your own inner child, because sometimes there isn't anyone else to do it. If you weren't parented correctly, then you need to be the parent you never had. Love yourself like an unconditionally loving mother would. Hug yourself when you've done something you're not proud of, or comfort yourself when you're not feeling good about things. Tell yourself you're doing good. It's okay. If you're a person who doesn't hear that from anyone, then say it out loud so your brain can hear it. You need to hear it. Even if you're the one talking, your brain is processing it as if the world is telling you. That's why standing in a mirror with affirmations is so positive and so powerful. Your brain is seeing someone look at you and tell you positive things. You're okay. You're loving. You're a nice person. You look good. Maybe nobody in your world is telling you these things, but when you're able to look in a mirror and say it to yourself, you process in your brain that someone else is telling you. So you can be the parent you didn't have. And that's a hard thing, because sometimes we get resentful. Why do I have to tell myself? How come I don't have anyone else in the outside world? Because it has to come from within first. When you get all this healthier, then the universe will reflect that love for yourself back onto you through other people. When you're not loving yourself and you're not healthy, your universe is going to project unhealthy, unloving situations back to you. That's why the work is so important. Some people call it shadow work. That's another term going on around now. It's definitely self-help, self-love, repairing yourself, right? You're healing the damage and you're stopping the patterns that not only will bless and release the generations before you, because remember, all the generations that came before that had these problems that weren't able to fix them. I hate the word fix. Heal patterns, stop behaviors. Generations that weren't able to do that beforehand, I believe they're stuck. They're stuck in a place waiting for the generation that will heal and stop the pattern. According to God, time is an illusion, right? He can be in all three at once, past, present, and future. So if future generations are going to heal the DNA, yes, there's spiritual healing, and yes, there's spiritual inheritances, but nobody's talking about the biological inheritances. What are the cells looking like in your body after they've been talked to for 40 years like they're useless? That's what we're going to get into in another video. But my point is, if you become the healed one, the one that stops the generational patterns, you're not only healing the generations before you to free their souls, there's a generational inheritance for the generation that gets to do the work. So all your ancestors are rooting for you. They're calling for you to be the echo into the generations. 1,000 generations, the Bible says, will be blessed. So that might mean 1,000 generations before and after. New kingdom, new world is going to be created. God wants you to be a new you, free from the generational traumas, behaviors, patterns, so that you can bless 1,000 generations behind. So you are the echo of all of that trauma and matrix crap. You are the echo of their pains, their wounds, their past hurts, their struggles. And if you're the agent of change and you heal, you're then the echo to the future generations of healthy, of love, of healing. And you leave a legacy. Your legacy will be the inherited abundance of your bloodline. This is serious work, serious spiritual work. Once you become your authentic self, I believe God's going to bless you. God's going to bless you abundantly, right? And God promises to bless 1,000 generations before and after you. That's why my channel is called Echo of 1,000 Generations. You are the echo of 1,000 generations of pain and hurt before you. And you can be the echo of 1,000 generations after of healing and love and abundance. It's up to you what kind of legacy you want to leave. One of Abel or one of Cain, right? I laugh because when I was starting this channel, I was like, God, the spiritual community says the chosen ones are healers. I must be a healer. I feel like I can heal the world. Let me share my downloads and insights you gave me, and I'm going to be, and I started thinking of names for my channel. I'm the Mystic Heart Healer. I am the Healer of Generations. And Jesus always humbles me. Always humbles me. And he said, young lady, I am the only healer of the generations. Me. Jesus Christ, our Savior. I am the healer of the generations. I'm going to give you insight. I want your mission to be to give the tools and the perspectives that my children need to understand that they have the power to heal themselves. We are all healers of ourselves. We can share tools with others. We can inspire others. And we can comfort and love and affirm and validate others. But we are all healers. You can heal yourself. You can heal yourself of cancer. You can heal yourself of spiritual trauma, physical trauma. Heart condition. Spiritual heart condition. So I just thought that was funny, right? God put me in my place. In fact, after he said, I'm the only generational healer, I said, oh God, oh, Jesus, I love you and I understand you are. I just thought I was a healer. I thought you wanted me to heal people. He says, I want you to love and educate people. You're a tour guide. I'm a tour guide? You think I'm a tour guide? He said, yeah. You're going to help people with their spiritual journey. You're going to guide them through healing in different perspectives and self-awareness, self-love. You're a tour guide on this journey through life. So, nice to meet you. I'm your tour guide through generational trauma or blessing. I really want you to be aware of the patterns and behaviors that have brought you maybe to a stuck place. That the self-limiting beliefs that you're not good enough for God, love, blessings, abundance, relationships. That's the core, right? Not feeling good enough. Period. That is the core. Start looking at yourself in the mirror today and saying, I refuse to commit to believing I'm not good enough. I will not believe that. My Lord and Savior says He loves me and He made me good enough. He made me good enough. I'm good enough. I'm good enough for anything. Nothing will stop my blessings. Nothing is going to come in the way of me loving me first. And when I do that, the world will accept who I am. You'll find your tribe. You'll find people who resonate with you. And for those that don't. They don't. And that's okay. They don't have to resonate with you. You have to be okay with that. So, friends, if you resonated with my message today, hit the like button. Share it with your friends or family or anyone you think this might be helpful for. If you are interested in when I put out new material, hit the subscribe button, please, and you'll be notified. Got a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm talking about emotional addiction. I'm going to talk about everything biological that happens to us when we face I say trauma. It doesn't have to be somebody beating you with a stick. It could be somebody hurting you with painful words or ignoring you. They might just ignore you. What does that do to the soul? What does that do to your cells in your body? What does that do to your gut? And then how does your brain interpret everything that's happening in the cells of your body? See, that's why it's deep work, because your mental state, your biological health, and your spiritual health are all being affected by your environment all day long, every single day of your life. And we really have to become warriors of our own health. We have to learn how to tell people to treat us. It's scary, because then they may just say, well, you know what, you're not good enough for me to change, and they walk away. And we have to be okay with them walking away, because they're not healthy for us, right? So, God wants you to prosper. He wants you to know that life is limitless. He wants you to believe in miracles. He wants you to believe in the healing of hearts. He wants you to believe that your family can heal and you can find love. You can express love. You can recreate a new reality for yourself and for your family, one that is truly authentic and not programmed by other toxic people. That's the gist of my channel. I want you to remember that you're good enough and that you deserve love. And God loves you. But remember, God is also deserving of love. So don't forget to love him back. Right? So from my heart to yours, I love you. I care about you. And I want to try to start healing the world, right? Giving you tools to heal yourselves so that we can all come together as more whole human beings, reflecting the love of Jesus and creating this new kingdom he has planned for us here on earth. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.